For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and you know what? We are live on this October 2nd. How can I prove that we're live? Because President Trump has the corona. There you are. We're not breaking any news here. I'm putting a timestamp on this so that you know I'm really working on a Friday, everybody. And props to those cable news anchors that were on the air really through the. They're probably still on the air right now. I'm not near a TV right now, but see, this is one of those things where you kind of have to laugh about it. And I was told to say the standard line, which all of the newscasters were saying overnight, is that of course we wish him well. But I wonder though how many, and this is horrible to say, but I wonder how many of them actually wish him well. You know, in a way, you kind of. So yes, I'm told to make that statement that we wish him and Melania Trump well, and Hope Hicks and the people around them who have been diagnosed with the corona. But you can't help but laugh when you go and say, like, well, karma's a bitch. Hey, remember, this whole corona thing was a hoax. You know, let's do some bleach shots, Mr. President. And like, I mean, this is now going to be the subject of jokes for who knows how long. Now, again, I realize that, yes, this is a serious virus that could potentially kill him, right? It could potentially kill anybody. But there's almost like a sweetness to this for the people. Like, how can he now, and I'm sure if he's going in quarantine, like they say, you know, he's got a week or two to sort of come up with a defense and blame somebody else for giving it to him, right? It's not going to be his fault. We know that. And so, like, he's going to downplay it. It wouldn't, and if he's going to be in quarantine and in hiding, I mean, he could be gravely ill, and we would never know that. And we know the White House is all about covering up stories, right? And even last night they were saying on the news, like, he had a test, but why is it taking 2.5, 3 hours to hear anything? And so, of course, that's when the newscasters were speculating that, well, he probably has it, and sure as shit, bam. So again, I mean, I'm laughing because it's one of those things where you sort of look at the person and go, well, I mean, you kind of brought it on yourself. And so it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, the morning shows, the late night, the primetime shows today are now just going to have a montage of him being a hypocrite, or the, you know, him making fun of Biden, who always has the biggest masks I've ever seen, or whatever he said at the debate on Tuesday. Like, this is just screaming for a montage of all of his lines. So it'll be interesting to see how the news channels and the news shows play this up. Is, you know, did they show sympathy and remorse for him, or do they kind of spin it and go, told you so, Mr. President, so you know what, you brought this on yourself. So I'm fascinated to see how this will play out in the media anyway. And yeah, now let's talk, I'm going to tell you about what's coming up on the show today, because this intro obviously wasn't planned earlier in the week because we didn't know this would happen. I'm also going to should I give you my thoughts about the debate? I'll wait for that. And earlier in the week, just before the debate on Tuesday night, The Weakest Link returned to NBC. Host Jane Lynch called into the radio show that I host and surprised me on the air. We are going to play that audio for you on the podcast in case you missed it. So our clip with Jane Lynch is coming up in a little bit. and I'm now going to share my thoughts about the debate. Okay, so here we are, Tuesday night, the world is watching, 60-some million people tuned in from around the world to see a Trump and Biden debate. And again, I'm not here to recap what happened. You know what happened, right? The yelling, the no real answers on things. And as a Canadian, I can tell you it was delicious. We literally ordered popcorn to the house. We had popcorn delivered from the movie theater, like a few blocks away. It was raining. I didn't want to go outside. And again, as a Canadian, it was fascinating to watch because you always see, again, going back to the newscasters and the commentators, after anything like that, at least somebody on the broadcast is going to say, and you know the world is watching and you wonder what they're thinking. I can tell you exactly what we were thinking. Sucks to be you right now, Americans. Which, again, is kind of weird because as a Canadian, I know when I first started out in the broadcast industry, me trying to be taken seriously with American counterparts was futile. It worked against me to be Canadian. And then I think things shifted when Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister. Suddenly we sort of had street cred because we had a hot PM. And now he's got his scandals, so, let's not talk about that. But suddenly, we've got this hot guy, and then Americans get Donald Trump in the White House, which then gave us even more credibility because we have the hot guy and a land of freedom, essentially, is what it is. And so, yeah, I can tell you that, texting back and forth with my Canadian friends or colleagues during the debate, I mean, I don't have my phone beside me right now, but basically, though, that was the thoughts was, you know what, we live in one damn good country. Like, it's great. And it sucks to say that because, again, it goes back to that humanity thing about, the president has corona. Should you feel remorse or sympathy for him? Well, I don't know. Did he have sympathy for the people who got it under his watch? I don't think so. So why? What's good for the goose, I think, is the saying. Anyway, so yeah, Canadians were watching it just going, this is a shit show, as a CNN anchor described it, right, Dana Bash. And it was just interesting to watch it play out. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. And I don't follow American politics. I'm not a political commentator. I have no insight into polls or anything like that. I really don't. I honestly don't even know what left wing or right wing or center or moderate. I don't even know what those things mean, quite honestly. I'm 38 years old. I have no clue what right wing, left wing is about. I don't even know what Trump is. Trump a left or a right? Not a clue. Anyway, but here's what I think is going to happen. And again, I'm not making a prediction, but I just sort of feel it's going to go this way. I believe that Americans got Trump as president because most people were sitting there going, this is too bizarre, and I kind of want to see how this will play out. And again, I realize that he didn't get the most number of votes, right? Hillary, I think it was 3 million or whatever. But I think that that's what people were saying, is that, this is so ridiculous that I want to see what will happen. And so I kind of have the feeling that that's what's going to happen again. Now, again, not making a prediction, though we will keep a timestamp on this episode of the show so that if I am correct, we can go back and play it. But I really do think that he has a chance of winning based solely on that standing. I want him to get reelected just to see, if you think that he's fucked up the country enough in this first 4 years, let's just see what he can do again now. Let's give him a second attempt just for hilarity's sake, for shits and giggles. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up happening. Now, again, we don't know what's going to play out with this corona thing. As I mentioned, he was just, diagnosed with it not even 12 hours ago. Now that I look at the clock here, it's 8 a.m. Central. But it's crazy. So again, this is where I want to ask you then, send me an email live@jbonair.com is, do you have sympathy or remorse for somebody like this? Now, again, humanity would say, yes, you should. You'd be a step above them though, right? He might not have sympathy for people, but that's where you should be better than him in that regard. But do you? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. And so I asked something on Twitter last night, which is, do you think that he's going to change his tone now? Do you think that him having the diagnosis and now the test positivity will he now encourage people to wear masks? Will he now sort of change his tune, or will he still be ignorant to all of it? Will he try to be Mr. Tough Guy and say, well, no, I didn't have the symptoms, when you know damn well that he is, right? Again, like I said, he's in quarantine, so he's going to be hiding. Maybe he's in the bunker doing bleach shots. I don't know. But do you think he's going to downplay it? Maybe he's going to suffer the symptoms, but do you think that he will, be a big baby and say, oh, yes, it was this bad, it was this bad? Send me an email live@jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, as a Canadian, perk up, American listeners, as a Canadian, I don't understand having to pay for healthcare. I spend a lot of my time in the United States, normally, when it's not infected by a virus, and when people hear that I'm from Canada, lately, the response is, oh, you guys are so lucky. Now, it used to be that we're lucky because we had a hot prime minister. Now, when he's enveloped in scandal, it's, he's not as hot, but certainly people are envious of Canadians because of the healthcare, gun control, things like that. And so I've never really understood, and I can't even tell you how many people I've had the healthcare conversation with over the years, because when we do travel programming, we've done shows all over, right? We've done in Florida, Louisiana, in Texas, California is sort of our home base doing the radio shows. And so it's interesting to kind of hear how it works for Americans, that, you pay this much for a Tylenol or an aspirin when you're in the hospital, and you pay for this and you pay for that. And I don't do that as a Canadian. I don't, there's no cash register at my doctor's office. But here's how I can relate to you Americans right now. It's regarding healthcare, but not for a human. It's for my pets. Now, I thankfully have been very, very fortunate, and I'm going to knock wood on this. I've been very fortunate over the 12 and 9 years that I've had my dogs that they have not had any major health issues. Now, as a puppy, the golden retriever that I had was getting ear infections. Now, that was actually something that I was bringing on the dog without knowing. I was bathing my dog a lot, and I was, what I thought, cleaning his ears. He was in the bathtub, and we had the little shower head and doing it. And then the vet was like, yeah, no, you can't wet dogs' ears on the inside. They've got to stay dry. And so I was actually giving him ear infections. I didn't know that. I was a new dog owner. I thought I was being good by bathing him and keeping him clean. Turns out, as a golden retriever and he's got the floppy ears, the moisture was staying in his ears and it was doing a problem. So other than that, the golden retriever gets hot spots a couple of times a year, which again is very common in them. The first couple times it's devastating because you don't know what's going on. It's still devastating when you see that he's in discomfort and pain, but we know that it's coming. We know that they're going to happen. And then the 9-year-old that we got from the animal shelter, he is not, he's not a purebred. He doesn't have prize-winning parents like the golden retriever does, that we know of anyway. And, he's 9. And again, they've never had any health issues whatsoever. And so now, as they're getting older, things are starting to happen, right? There's a stiffness in his leg, or he's not, he's kind of walking funny, or he's not eating today. And it's interesting because think about it as a human being. How can you go 9 years without getting sick? And I just what I mean by that is having, maybe a sore back and having to walk funny one day, or getting, now of course we don't know if a dog has a headache, so but I'm saying something that would physically indicate that you're not well. So that could be getting a cold, the flu, a hangover even, right? I mean, people will freak out because your dog threw up once last year, right? It's a big deal, but look at what humans go through, right? And really the only way that a dog is in discomfort or pain is if they start acting differently, right? A human, I could have a throbbing headache right now. Unless I told you, you wouldn't notice, usually. And so now this is where I can relate, because we have had a few vet appointments in the past little while. And, to walk in I didn't bring the bill with me. One of the dogs the other weekend he wasn't even responding to us. He was just laying on the floor. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't drink. He wouldn't stand up and go outside. He just wouldn't do anything. And of course I'm in a panic, right? And it was a Sunday evening, Sunday night. The doctor's not around. And by you give it till Monday morning. Oh, maybe he'll sleep it off. Maybe he's okay. But it's strange because there's this widespread panic, and it's like, so his stomach wasn't feeling that great. He's 9 years old. He's older, I guess senior-ish, depending on the breed of dog or what have you. But it's just like this all-out panic, at least in our house anyway. And I think a lot of pet owners, pet parents will be like that. So $70 to walk in the door. We also had to take a urine sample, so I had to collect the pee. And $40 to put a little tiny stick in the pee. $40 charge just for him to drop a piece of little cardboard or whatever, a pee stick, into the container of pee. $40. So we left there $122 later, and then we had to go back for blood work. So we had to go for a second appointment. They're very clever with the billing. Because they said to do blood work, he can't have eaten for about 12 hours before no food or water before blood work, 12 hours. And because I asked, I'm like, why can't you just take the blood right now? We're here already. Now we're going to have to come all the way back. And so then, yeah. Now, you'd think that maybe some reputable vets, and I'm not knocking my vet, but just, again, this is where I'm saying that I understand the American healthcare system is that, it is a business, right? And you do need to make money. And so $380 was the estimate to do blood work. And I just thought, wow. And so it made me wonder, and I'm not in the healthcare profession. I know nothing about veterinary clinics or offices. But as an entrepreneur myself, I actually would kind of sit there going, yeah, you want to make as much money as possible. But wouldn't it be great to have that formal education, and then your claim to fame in your city, town, neighborhood, community would be that you're the half-price veterinarian? Because there's just something, me as the pet owner, I'm kind of $380 is a little excessive, because what are you doing? You're going to be sticking a syringe or something in my dog, pulling out, a shot glass of blood, maybe not even, and you're going to be looking at it. Could you do that for about $100? Yeah. Could you do that for $50 even? Yeah. Again, I realize that you got to make money. Yes, you're a business. But think about that. So we are now at $500 to go in there, to get a stick of pee, and to have blood extracted from the dog, and then, the assessment. And so on the way home, of course, my fella is like, you realize now that that's $500 plus just to figure out what's up. Now, if there's anything, and heaven forbid, we need surgery or something like that. Now your price is just going up and up and up. And so as a Canadian looking at the American healthcare system, I always just say, wow, those poor suckers. You're paying $100, hundreds of dollars a day, it's a 5-star hotel to stay in a hospital. And so for me, I can relate now, especially with the vet thing. And then there's this dilemma that you have as the pet parent. For me, and I'm not bragging when I say this, but for me, money isn't an issue. So, I'm okay. But of course, I sit there going, what am I getting for $500? Well, the correct answer is I'm getting a healthy and happy dog, right? So there's this sort of, I don't even want to use the word selfishness, because it's not. I mean, but how can you not do it, right? How can you go and say about your pet who, he's all, or I'm all he's known for 9 years now, right? This is a dog that looks to you for everything. right? They look to you as kind of, okay, can I cross the street now? Okay, can I do this? Am I allowed to play with this toy now? Like, they look to you for reassurance of almost everything that they do in life, and that's all they're accustomed to. How can I then go and live with myself and say, nah, we're not going to do that? And again, this is me, somebody who is, financially okay and has the means to do it. And I could totally now understand how people who aren't in that position, who just can't afford it. Like, I totally understand the heartbreak that you go through, because the last resort is give up your pet, right? Or sorry, I guess the last resort would be put them down if you can't. But of course, most people wouldn't. They would maybe just surrender the pet or have somebody else, or borrow money, or you're going to do anything that you can, to make it work. And I certainly understand that now. Like I said, we've been fortunate that we haven't had expensive, vet bills and injuries and whatever through the years. But now the reality is setting in that, hey, we've got 2 older dogs, 12 and a half and now almost 9 and a half. These things are going to start to happen, and you almost have to prepare yourself. You've got to prepare yourself now and go. It's not. I'm not even saying about the money. You're just now. It's all changing now. Right now, it's. He's going to have to be let out more. We're going to have to watch his behavior. Is he losing weight? Is he pulling out his fur? Is there a problem with his tail? These are all things the vet was telling us that could be happening, right? When a dog maybe develops diabetes or cancer, whatever it is, there's these telltale signs. And now we're in at times 2, right? We've got 2 of them. And so, the big fear is that we're going to be nursing, 2 dogs at the same time. And there again, there's now I'll use the term selfishness. There's that feeling of how is this going to be affecting my daily routine, and then I think you're also going to have that frustration of they're inconveniencing you, but clearly they're not intending to. And I told a similar story on the show. I don't remember how long ago, but I talked about like visiting my grandma before my grandma was put in a home. My mom and my aunt and uncles were getting pissed off because she was going through all these things. Well, she's got dementia. She doesn't really know what she's doing. And she's basically literally crying for attention. She would call them crying. And it was always how it's affecting me, right? I'm getting the phone calls 10 times a day. And I mean them when I say me, right? I'm on the receiving end of those phone calls. She's not calling you. She's calling me. And I've got to go and do But you got to think about it. She's not doing it to inconvenience you. And so very similar when it comes to your pets. And so we're heading into that direction. So thankfully, the dogs right now have a clean bill of health. But, you kind of look at that and go, wow, that was $500. And there's this weird parallel, because when I think about me dropping $500 on something, right? Same thing for people who have, season tickets to sporting events. Well, back in the day when you could, or going on a vacation or doing things like that. Think about that. You could, I already talked about a hotel room, right? Hospital bed, a hotel room. Think about a hotel. When you go on vacation, you're going to be paying upwards of $100 and, maybe $200 a night for a hotel. And what are you doing there? You're just sleeping for the most part, right? If you're going there on a tourism thing and you're out and about all day and you're only coming back at night and you're sleeping there, you had no problem dropping $150 a night in a hotel. But then that $500, I guess maybe because it's a bigger number, I don't know. But yeah, you kind of look at that and you sort of second guess, I don't know, the vet bill is going to be a lot. But wait a second, you just spent $2,000 on a vacation. You might have lifelong memories for 3 days with that, but look about, what you're getting by helping your dog live, a little bit longer, right? Which is more, one's priceless and one's not, right? That time with your cherished family pet, I think. But it's strange though how it kind of messes with you. Because yeah, the first trip to the vet on the way home, it was just like, I paid $122 for that, to walk in and have a stick of pee. Right? And then you get the bill, or you get the estimate for the next visit 2 days later, and you're like, $380 some. Wow. Okay, well, what's next? And you're almost pissed off about that. And again, there's that selfishness that I was talking about. So, I've gone through this before. We had a dog when I was growing up with my parents. We got him when I was 2. And he was put down when I was 20. And so I remember the failing health. Now, again, I wasn't the decision maker in the household at the time, so it wasn't quite exactly, I wasn't in the same position. And, you worry, though, that you're going to Yeah, the word selfish really comes to mind. I honestly thought that when this would happen with me, that I would selfishly want to keep the dog alive because I needed him in my life, right? And then there's kind of this weird thing going, well, if it's his time and he's really, I don't want to see him like that, so it actually almost becomes an easier decision. This is how I feel it's going to play out in my head. Of course, you're going to hear about it when it does happen, right? Obviously, it's going to happen, but yeah, it's kind of strange. So there we go. Just gushed for half of the show on that one. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We'll talk about that when we come back. And the celebrity phone is lighting up. Are we doing a break or are we going to the celebrity phone? What is happening, everybody? Go to the phone.
Hello, Jeremy.
Huh?
You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Okay. That was the quickest call ever. I'm the weakest link. So this must be my mom or my 4th grade teacher. Hi, who is this?
It's Jane Lynch. How are you?
Oh, Jane the prankster. Jane Lynch. I'm good. How are you?
I'm so well, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, I guess we're going to talk about the weakest link. Is that why you're calling in?
Yeah, let's do that because it's premiering on NBC and Peacock.
Absolutely. Now, the show is back, but for anybody who isn't familiar with it, right, it's a rapid-fire game show where the contestants really have to think on their feet.
They sure do, and it's a trivia show, so all that useless information that's been banging around inside your head might become of some use when you're watching and playing along on The Weakest Link.
Now, I have to know, though, since you've taped the episodes, have any of those useless facts come up in conversation? You know, like a business meeting? Do you just find yourself blurting out random pieces of information?
Not yet, but I got to kick in. See, my problem, Jeremy, is that I don't have any retention. So I was watching one of the episodes the other day, and I asked the questions. I was there. It's clear I was there, and I don't remember any of the answers. That's the sad thing about age. Nothing sticks.
Jane, maybe you weren't there. Maybe that's what it was.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. It was someone who looked like me? I don't know.
Hey, but as long as the check clears, you're fine, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the weirdest bit of knowledge, though, that you've picked up? Because I always figure someone like Alex Trebek, who's a smart man, but I imagine he's become smarter since doing the show, right? Like, is there anything that you've picked up that's now stuck with you?
Well, one of the things is, and I will ask you, what is the most abundant element in the Earth's atmosphere?
Us gay people. Well, I don't know. What is it?
Nitrogen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So back to the game show. So if I didn't know that answer, what happens?
Well, I would say incorrect, and we would move on because the clock is ticking. But maybe the rest of the contestants might vote you off as the weakest link. Everybody votes at the end who they want to get rid of, who's the weakest link, who's keeping them from making as much money as possible. So because you answered that incorrectly, you might be the weakest link.
Goodbye, right?
Goodbye.
What's the prize money? What are they playing for?
Up to $1 million, so it's nothing to sneeze at, even in COVID.
Well, yeah, sneeze inside your mask, everybody, though. That's what you have to do.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Now, this is the thing. We always see on those singing competition shows where the judges tell the contestants to make the performance their own. You know where I'm going with this. Everyone knows the scary British lady Anne Robinson from The Weakest Link. So how do you make this performance your own, Jane?
Well, I don't think about that, actually.
Okay.
I banish those thoughts thoughts from my mind and just go forth the way I do every job, which is that you discover along the way. And I don't ever put the cart before the horse and say, oh, what is my way? How will I distinguish myself from her? I didn't do that at all.
Okay, so you didn't channel Anne, no like high tea, no noticeable accent?
No.
Well, just being your fabulous self, right? Oh, okay, we're going to be watching. When can we catch The Weakest Link, Jane?
It is on Tuesday at 8 o'clock, 7 Central, and then henceforth every Tuesday.
Awesome, and they just told me that you were last on the radio with us. It was the TV Land Awards in 2011, Jane. That's how long ago it's been.
Oh my gosh.
New York City red carpet. Wow, memories. I remember it fondly. No, I don't, but that's age, right? As you were saying.
Either.
Well, Jane Lynch, thanks so much for surprising me. It was great chatting with you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to be watching The Weakest Link on NBC. Hey, Jane, goodbye.
Wonderful. Bye-bye.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley on The Scribble. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.